Have you ever felt that your achievements were stolen from you? That despite the long hours, the relentless dedication, and the groundbreaking ideas, someone else took the credit, and with it, the recognition you deserved? Tonight, you're about to step into a story that might echo your own battles in the corporate world. I'm about to introduce you to a journey of injustice turned into a triumphant reclamation of what was rightfully mine. My name is Elise, a dedicated engineer in a high-stakes tech firm, where innovation drives not only our products but also our very identity. Over the years, I watched as our company's boardrooms, steeped in tradition and politics, rewarded the wrong heroes. One day, a twist of fate changed everything. My team had just developed a breakthrough in neural data compression, a solution that could redefine our industry. I had poured my heart, soul, and every ounce of creativity into this innovation. Yet, when it was time to showcase our work, an unexpected betrayal unfolded. Picture this, in a high-pressure board meeting, as every eye was glued to the presenter, my vice president, yes, the same person I once trusted, subtly erased my name from our breakthrough white paper. He assumed, with misplaced confidence, that credit belonged solely to him. And without a hint of awareness, he strutted out with it as his own, expecting a round of applause for a feat he never truly accomplished. If you've ever been sidelined or felt inferior because someone else claimed your work, then you already understand the sting of betrayal. And here's where the story takes its first transformational turn. I had anticipated this very moment. I had secured every iota of evidence, every email, every timestamp of the development process. I had taken the bold step to file the patent live under my own name, setting the stage for what would become a corporate showdown. Over the next hour, I'll walk you through the careful planning and the emotional roller coaster of a relentless pursuit for justice that unfolded before a room full of unsuspecting executives. And as we journey through these events, you'll discover how determination and a refusal to be silenced can reshape more than just a career. It can redefine an entire corporate culture. Throughout our time together, think about the moments in your own life when you felt undervalued. Feel the simmering tension of every slight and let that fuel your anticipation for what's coming next. I promise that by the conclusion of this story, you'll not only understand the mechanics of corporate betrayal but also the power of standing up and reclaiming your destiny. This isn't just another tale of corporate intrigue, it's a manifesto for anyone who has ever been overlooked or underestimated. So, settle in and allow the words to draw you into a world of high stakes and even higher risks, where every minute counts and every detail matters. Let my journey resonate with the battles you face, and together, we'll explore how one moment of audacity can ignite a full-scale revolution in your career. And if you're already feeling the pull of this story, remember, as we reach pivotal moments, I'll naturally invite you to convide para un proximo capítulo, to join me as the story unfolds beyond this very moment. This is only the beginning. Let's uncover what happens next, as the truth not only emerges but shatters the old order, setting in motion a transformation that none of us could have imagined. Behind every great comeback is an unseen process of planning and preparation, an intricate dance with time and truth that few ever witness. In the quiet hours after the boardroom meeting, when the city's lights dim and the hum of digital servers becomes the only music, I began to orchestrate my silent counterstrike. I knew that if I were to reclaim what was taken from me, every detail had to be documented, every misstep carefully recorded, and every piece of evidence secured beyond dispute. In those early hours, when the world around me was asleep, I transformed my workstation into both a fortress and a forensic lab. I meticulously organized every email, every commit log, and every timestamp from our development servers, all the digital footprints that could prove my original contribution to the breakthrough in neural data compression. I sorted these records by date, carefully annotated them with details that only I could remember, the late nights fueled by determination, the whispered conversations in empty halls, and every concession that I had silently noted over the years. The corporate environment I worked in was a labyrinth of unwritten rules and subtle power plays. While the executives prided themselves on polished presentations and polished personas, I inched through the shadows, collecting every scrap of information that might one day become the cornerstone of my vindication. I secured multiple backups of my work, saving not only the precious code but also the raw, unsanitized feedback from our testing phases. I even compiled notes from the countless meetings that, in retrospect, seemed orchestrated to blur individual contributions into a single indistinguishable mass. Every conversation I had, every informal chat over coffee, and even the casual remarks by colleagues became part of my dossier. I discreetly recorded snippets of dialogue and logged them meticulously. With each detail added, my collection grew from a humble stack of files into an unassailable archive, a silent testimony to the truth. I wasn't driven merely by personal grievance, but by the overarching need to expose a system that valued appearance over authenticity. The injustice wasn't just against me, it was a wound inflicted upon every unsung contributor in that sprawling corporate machine. In the midst of this covert operation, I was acutely aware of the risks. Every minute, every keystroke, was a calculated move in a high-stakes chess game. I did not act impulsively, each step was measured and deliberate. Even though I could feel the pressure mounting, I found solace in the discipline of my routine. The steady tapping of keys, the quiet moment before each email was sent, it all became the cadence of a plan that was growing stronger with every passing hour. I recall one particular moment that encapsulated the gravity of it all. It was well past midnight, and while most of the firm rested after a long day, I was piecing together a timeline of events so precise that even the most skeptical auditor would have had no choice but to recognize the integrity of my records. Each document was a brick in the foundation of my argument, a counterstrike not of revenge alone, but of justice re-established. I knew that when the truth was finally laid bare, there would be no room for denial, no space for rewriting history. This stage of my journey was not marked by bombastic declarations or rushed actions. Instead, it was characterized by quiet resolve and the meticulous accumulation of undeniable proof. I reviewed contract clauses, cross-referenced meeting minutes, and even compared file versions down to the very last revision note. All of this was done with the knowledge that every piece of evidence I gathered could tip the scales in my favor when the time came to confront the corrupt practices that had been allowed to fester in the upper echelons of our corporate hierarchy. As I sifted through the digital remnants of our past projects, an undeniable realization struck me. This was not only about reclaiming a lost patent or undoing a personal slight, it was about setting a precedent. I was building more than an archive of my own work. I was constructing a statement against a culture that tolerated credit stealing and unchecked ambition. Each file I saved, each fact I verified, was a deliberate step toward restructuring an environment where talent and integrity would not be ignored. I can still remember the surge of adrenaline as I organized my final submission of evidence. The files were neatly named, the logs sorted chronologically, and every discrepancy highlighted with painstaking clarity. In that moment, I knew there was no turning back. Every sleepless night, every drop of sweat spent in the solitude of my office, was leading inexorably to a reckoning. And as the evidence piled up, so did my determination. I wasn't just preparing for a confrontation, I was staging a revolution that would shake the foundation of our corporate world. Now, if you're listening to this, think back to your own experiences when you felt that the system worked against you, a time when you fought an uphill battle with no one by your side. Let that memory fuel your anticipation. Imagine gathering your proof, every seemingly insignificant detail, and constructing an unbreakable case that could change your destiny. The journey I'm sharing isn't merely about corporate betrayal, it's about reclaiming your power and rewriting a narrative that was never meant to be yours. As we approach the next stage of this journey, know that what I've built here is not just a dossier, but a declaration, that every injustice will be met with a countermeasure, every slight with a strategy, and every stolen moment of recognition with a loud, irrevocable reclaiming of power. And remember, as we move forward, I'll naturally confide para un proximo capitulo, inviting you to join me on the next step of this transformation. Now, the stage is set for the moment of reckoning. Picture a vast, modern boardroom, sleek, glass walls reflecting the intense focus of every executive gathered. The atmosphere is thick with expectation as my vice president steps up to present our latest breakthrough on neural data compression. Up until this point, the room has been filled with the steady hum of confidence and polished corporate rhetoric. But beneath that veneer, I knew the truth was about to shatter the carefully constructed facade. At precisely 11:10 a.m., as the polished slide deck played in rhythm with his rehearsed tone, everything changed. Unbeknownst to him, every critical piece of evidence I had painstakingly assembled was ready to disrupt his narrative. I had set a trigger, a silent command embedded in the system, that would override the presentation at just the right moment. In that fraction of a second, the large screen behind him flickered and transformed. Suddenly, instead of the adjusted white paper he had prepared, the projector displayed an uncut slide, the official patent registration. There, in bold and irrefutable type, was my name. Every letter, every number, and every date was there for all to see, the precise details of the patent I had filed live under my own name. The room fell into a stunned silence. The meticulously planned deception unraveled before our very eyes. I remember the look on his face, his confident mask slipping, replaced by shock and confusion. My VP, who had so arrogantly assumed full credit just moments before, was left speechless as the evidence stood unchallenged. The board members, who had once been complicit by default through their silence, now exchanged hesitant glances. In that electrifying moment, every minute of clandestine preparation made their collective disbelief even more palpable. Every detail on the screen was a statement of truth, a testament to the long hours, countless emails, and endless iterations that had gone into establishing the authenticity of my work. The official registration number, stamped and dated, refuted every claim he had made. It was as if time had momentarily stopped, the hum of whispered conversations, the shuffle of papers, and the beat of my own racing heart all converged into a singular, powerful pulse of vindication. As I stood there, absorbing the weight of the moment, I could sense that a shift was occurring. The carefully orchestrated optimism of my VP was giving way to the stark reality of corporate betrayal. His attempt to appropriate my achievements had not only failed, but it had also undone the credibility he had built over years. The room, now filled with a mixture of disbelief and introspection, was witnessing a transformation, a turning point where the scales of justice began to tip in my favor. In that instance, the power of truth became undeniable. The silence that enveloped the room was heavy with implications. This was not just about a stolen patent or a misappropriated credit, it was about the dismantling of an entire system that allowed such injustice to occur. Every board member, every observer, was forced to confront the reality that integrity had finally reasserted itself over manipulation. I could see the different reactions clearly. Some faces hardened with the realization of their own complicity in a flawed system, while others appeared taken aback, their expressions a mixture of admiration and regret. The clarity of the slide, the definitive, live evidence of my contribution, dropped a truth bomb that reverberated through the polished corridors of corporate power. And amidst that charged atmosphere, I knew that this was not a moment to gloat or to celebrate victory prematurely. It was a moment to let the facts speak for themselves, to allow the full weight of undeniable evidence to resonate. The very air in the room seemed to vibrate with the tension of a secret long kept finally exposed under the harsh light of truth. The presentation, which had been nothing more than a rehearsed illusion, was now irrevocably transformed. My VP fumbled for words as he attempted to explain or deflect, but there was no longer room for evasions. The narrative had shifted irreversibly, the stolen credit had been reclaimed, and the legacy of what was once hidden was now laid bare. In that intense, almost surreal silence, every element of my preparation converged. The meticulous collection of emails, commit logs, and timestamps transformed into a clear, unassailable tapestry of truth that no one in that room could ignore. This was more than a personal victory. It was a moment when the entire corporate machine was forced to acknowledge that the quest for authenticity and justice could not be easily silenced. I felt a mixture of solemn satisfaction and resolute determination as I watched the fallout. This was the moment where every risk taken, every sleepless night spent gathering evidence, found its purpose. The revelation on that screen transcended a single act of retribution. It heralded a new chapter of integrity and accountability within our organization. For the next several minutes, as murmurs slowly replaced the earlier stunned silence, the atmosphere shifted to one of introspection and, perhaps, a hint of hope. The board, once content to let appearances dictate outcomes, now had to reassess their measures of merit. The facts were there for all to see, and with them came an implicit challenge to every impunity that had been allowed to breed in the corridors of power. And so, amidst the murmurs and the shifting expressions, I stood with unwavering resolve. I knew that what had just unfolded was not the end, but merely the fulcrum upon which a complete transformation was poised to begin. In that moment of stark exposure, I naturally confide para proximo capitulo, inviting each of you to stay with me, to witness as this saga of truth escalates into even more decisive actions that will forever alter the dynamics of our corporate world. Let this moment be a reminder that truth, no matter how long it is suppressed, will eventually find a way to break through. And as we move forward, I promise you that the journey is far from over. The groundwork has been laid, the evidence presented, and the old order has begun to crumble. Now, brace yourself as we take the next step into a future where justice is not only served, but where the voice of integrity rises above all the noise. Almost immediately after the explosive slide revealed my live patent registration, the boardroom transformed into a battleground of hushed whispers and tense glances. The shock that had momentarily frozen everyone was now giving way to a palpable anticipation, a turning point where accountability was no longer optional. I knew that the next moments would determine not only the fate of those who had wronged me but also the integrity of our entire corporate culture. Taking a deep, steadying breath, I rose from my seat and moved slowly toward the front of the room where all eyes were fixed. I could sense the mix of disbelief, regret, and curiosity emanating from the board members as they awaited my next words. The silence was broken only by the faint rustling of paper and a few hesitant coughs, a stark reminder that the truth had just been laid bare. I began by calmly addressing the room. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence before you is indisputable. My contributions, documented meticulously over countless hours of relentless work, are now for all to see. The patent registration displayed behind me is not merely a number or a signature, it is the culmination of my passion, expertise, and an unwavering commitment to innovation. My voice, measured but firm, resonated with a quiet authority that demanded attention without resorting to theatrics. As I continued, I reached for a pendant folder on a nearby table, a collection of printouts and digital snapshots that summarized every recorded email, every commit log, and every minute detail from our development process. Slowly and deliberately, I began to present each item as if unveiling pieces of a complex puzzle. "This," I said, holding up a brightly highlighted email, "is the message I received on the day our project reached a critical breakthrough. It clearly indicates my contributions as well as an explicit instruction to alter my credits. And here," I continued, pointing to a series of timestamped logs from our version control system, "are the records showing the evolution of our code, a narrative of innovation that has been carefully engineered by my team, spearheaded by my vision." The room grew ever quieter as I allowed the significance of each document to sink in. I recounted, one by one, the moments when I had been sidelined, and how each accumulation of evidence had reinforced the injustice at hand. I explained the context behind each file, a story of long nights and tireless perseverance, coupled with the sting of knowing that the credit I deserved was being systematically erased by those in positions of power. My voice never wavered as I shifted from one piece of evidence to the next. I made sure to articulate details that many might overlook. "Notice the revision history on this file, the precise logs where your involvement ends and mine begins. Here in these timestamps, you see the unmistakable pattern of modifications that can only belong to the true architect of this innovation." With every new piece of data, I was not only exposing a single act of corporate injustice, I was methodically dismantling the facade that had allowed such behavior to persist. At this juncture, my vice president, whose audible discomfort had grown increasingly evident, attempted to interject with vague explanations about collaborative efforts and oversights. However, every argument he tried to muster was swiftly undercut by the undeniable clarity of the records I had assembled. His words, once charged with overconfidence, now fell flat against the weight of documented truth. The board's collective gaze shifted from his diminishing justifications to me, the bearer of irrefutable evidence. Understanding the gravity of the confrontation, I took a moment to let the silence speak for itself. It was in that quiet that the full extent of our corporate system's failure was laid bare, a system where accountability was constantly deferred in favor of protecting reputations. I then resumed my narration, my tone now carrying both a quiet indignation and a persistent hope for rectification. "This is not solely about a misplaced name on a document," I declared, "but about the fundamental right to have one's hard work recognized and valued. When innovation is covered up by deceit, it is not just an individual betrayal, it is an affront to every honest contributor within this organization." I continued by addressing the broader implications. "The evidence you see today is a testament to the power of detailed record-keeping and unwavering determination. It is an invitation to reflect on all the times where the voices of those who truly built the future were drowned out by the noise of unchecked ambition." My words flowed with a conviction that slowly began to sway even the most skeptical faces in the room. By systematically linking each piece of evidence to the larger narrative of corporate integrity, I aimed to foster a collective realization that change was both necessary and inevitable. As I moved through my presentation, I made sure to pause at key moments, brief silences that allowed each fact to land with its full impact. I noticed a shift in the room, where once there was confusion and denial, now there was an emerging sense of responsibility. Board members exchanged glances that conveyed more than words ever could, a silent acknowledgement that the systems in place needed reform. It was then that I leaned in, my eyes sweeping across the gathered executives, and posed a rhetorical challenge. "If we are to continue down a path where innovation is stifled by fraud and discredited by deceit, what kind of future are we building for our company? What legacy do we leave for the next generation of innovators?" My tone, firm yet not aggressive, carried an invitation, a call for introspection and accountability that resonated throughout the room. The confrontation reached its peak as my VP, visibly rattled, finally tried to piece together a counter-narrative. His attempt to deflect blame only deepened the focus on the facts I had so carefully laid out. I countered his feeble justifications with another series of pointed questions. Why were these changes made without proper disclosure? Who authorized a decision that stripped away the contributions of an entire team member? And most importantly, how do you expect us, as stewards of progress and honesty, to move forward without accepting the truth that these records reveal? With each query, I dismantled the possibility of any alternative interpretation, leaving no doubt that the truth belonged unmistakably to my hands. The intensity in the room escalated, not through raised voices or heated gestures, but through the relentless clarity of the facts. Each document, each statement, reinforced the reality that the corporate system had long rewarded pretense over authenticity. And as the tension reached its apex, I reaffirmed the purpose behind every painstaking effort I had made. I stand here not as an individual seeking personal vindication, but as a representative of every hardworking professional whose contribution has been suppressed. Today, we reclaim the narrative. Today, we say that integrity and transparency will no longer be compromised. When all the evidence had been laid out and every argument against it had been silenced by the undeniable chain of facts, the boardroom was steeped in a reflective pause. In that moment, I felt that we had collectively crossed an invisible threshold, from complicity to accountability, from injustice to the promise of meaningful change. With the confrontation drawing to a close, I gathered my thoughts for the final declaration. These documents and testimonies are more than mere records, they are the blueprint for a new era in our company. And now, as the truth has been forced into the light, there is no turning back. I took a deliberate pause, letting that idea resonate in every corner of the room. Finally, with unwavering resolve, I concluded this segment by softly but firmly stating, I have exposed a system that has taken advantage of trust and talent for far too long. And, as we stand at the brink of transformation, I'm naturally inviting you to join me as we venture deeper into the journey of retribution and renewal. The challenge was laid out not only to those gathered in the room but to every individual who had ever been wronged by a system that prized entitlement over true merit. And so, in that defining moment, the battle for justice took on a new meaning, a promise that the pursuit of truth would continue relentlessly. Now that the shattering revelations have echoed through the boardroom, the atmosphere has irrevocably changed. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the very foundations of our corporate culture have begun to tremble, making way for a new reality. The facts are undeniable, and the silence that once protected deceit has given way to murmurs of accountability and a determination for reform. In the days that followed, an unprecedented shift took hold. The board, a body once content with maintaining the status quo through quiet complicity, was forced to confront its own shortcomings. Executives who had long sided with the familiar narrative now looked toward the evidence with new eyes. I found myself not only vindicated, but also empowered with the responsibility to steer the company toward transparency and genuine recognition of talent. In subsequent meetings, I presented a comprehensive plan to redefine our innovation strategy, one that centered on merit and ethical conduct. I proposed establishing rigorous internal audits and oversight committees dedicated to ensuring every piece of work, every creative breakthrough, was credited to its true originator. This plan was not born out of a personal quest for justice, it was a blueprint for change that promised to restore integrity in every corner of our organization. With the accusatory glare of the evidence still fresh in everyone's mind, influential colleagues and even previously silent board members began to rally behind this new vision. I was approached by those who had long suspected that our system was flawed, and they saw in my uprising not merely a vindication of one wrong, but a chance to reshape the company for the better. Together, we organized internal forums and roundtable discussions, where every team member was encouraged to share their experiences and ideas for a more equitable future. Slowly but surely, the concept of collaboration and openness began to take root, a stark contrast to the hidden maneuvers and power plays that had once defined our days. The physical transformation in the company mirrored the internal revolution that had just begun. Key figures within the leadership started to yield to change. My former vice president, whose authority had been built on manipulation, saw his influence wane as the board initiated a comprehensive review of past practices. I, on the other hand, was formally recognized as the lead architect behind the revolutionary neural compression technology, a title that came not as a mere formality, but as a testament to the relentless pursuit of truth and excellence. This acknowledgement was more than a personal milestone, it signified the birth of a new corporate paradigm. I declined a lucrative buyout offer that aimed to silence my movement, understanding that true progress could never be bought or sold. Instead, I committed myself to ensure that the systems we put in place were not just reactive measures, but long-term reforms that would safeguard future innovations from exploitation. As policies were overhauled and new procedures brought transparency to every project, I witnessed the very culture of our company begin to evolve. Gone were the days when ambition could hide behind fabricated accolades. Now, every contribution was meticulously recorded and celebrated. The transformation was palpable. The cold, calculated machinery of corporate deceit was slowly giving way to a vibrant ecosystem where genuine creative synergy and honest recognition reigned supreme. I could feel the pulse of the new reality with every discussion, every decision made in favor of accountability. Conversations that were once dismissed as insignificant now carried the weight of progress. In this new environment, the spirit of innovation flourished, fueled by a commitment to honor every unsung hero whose work had been overlooked for too long. In the midst of all these changes, I also forged a strategic alliance with an independent tech oversight committee. This partnership, built on transparency and expertise, would ensure that our groundbreaking projects were always subject to unbiased review. It wasn't just a move to protect my own interests, it was a leap toward creating an industry standard where credit was given where it was due and every innovation was the legacy of collaborative brilliance. The transformation wasn't immediate or without its challenges. Old habits die hard, and remnants of the past occasionally tried to resurface. Yet, each time those shadows emerged, the new policies and the resolute culture of accountability served as a constant reminder that integrity could no longer be compromised. With each passing day, I saw more team members stepping forward, emboldened by the realization that their contributions mattered and would now be safeguarded. This newfound sense of belonging and fairness resonated throughout the halls of our company. I watched as colleagues, who had once worked in the background, began to assert their ideas openly during meetings. A contagious optimism spread, a belief that the oppressive aura of secrecy had finally given way to a future driven by transparency and mutual respect. And so, here we stand at the threshold of a truly reimagined, a landscape where the injustice of the past has catalyzed a transformation that promises to redefine not only the hierarchy but the very essence of how we work together. It is a new reality where every piece of innovation is justly credited, and every voice is heard. With a calm yet inspiring conviction, I now naturally confide para un proximo capitulo, an invitation to witness and participate in the unfolding journey of lasting change. The story is far from over. Every policy implemented, every reform initiated, serves as a beacon for what lies ahead, a future where remorse is replaced by resolve, and deceit is dismantled by a commitment to truth. As we embrace this new era, reflect on what it means to be part of a community where success isn't measured by blind ambition, but by the collective power to elevate each contribution into a legacy. This transformation is a promise that authenticity and integrity will guide us forward, and that every innovation is not just a spark of genius, but a testament to the human spirit's unwavering quest for justice. Now, take a moment to let that vision settle. Feel the energy of a company reborn, the profound change in the air, and know that by being part of this journey, you have ignited a movement that extends far beyond the walls of any boardroom. This is our new reality where the past's injustices become the stepping stones for a future defined by fairness and excellence. As we bring this chapter of our journey to a close, I invite you to take a deep breath and reflect on all we have experienced together. Today, we uncovered a story of perseverance, injustice, and ultimately, transformation. Each piece of evidence, every moment of courage, has paved the way for a higher standard of integrity, not only within our corporate environment but also in our own lives. Think back to the moments when you felt overwhelmed by adversity, when the challenges of life seemed insurmountable. Now, imagine a future where every struggle is met with unwavering determination and every setback transforms into an opportunity for growth. The transformation we witnessed here is not just about reclaiming what was once taken, it's a powerful reminder that when we stand up for what is right, change becomes inevitable. I want you to remember, this isn't merely a conclusion, it's the spark that ignites a new beginning. Today's revelations are the stepping stones towards a future forged in honesty, transparency, and renewed hope. By challenging the status quo and demanding accountability, we've set in motion an era where every contribution is recognized and respected. And now, as we reach the end of this chapter, I extend an invitation to you, a personal invitation to be part of this ongoing journey. If the story we shared has resonated with you, if you believe that every act of courage inspires a better tomorrow, then I encourage you to join this movement. Hit that subscribe button on the Copewell channel, because here, each new video is not just another story, it's a commitment to a future where hope is relentless. Remember our guiding message: life can be tough, but know that hope is alive and you can Copewell. By subscribing, you not only stay informed about our next steps and deeper dives into these transformative narratives, but you also become part of a community that stands together in the pursuit of resilience and truth. Every subscription, every comment, and every share helps fuel the movement for change, ensuring that together, we rise above the challenges and learn how to truly cope well. As you walk away from this video, carry with you the strength that comes from knowing that every obstacle presents an opportunity, and every moment of injustice can spark a revolution of hope and accountability. Let today's journey be a reminder that your voice, your efforts, and your determination matter. They matter in the boardroom, but more importantly, they matter in the story of your life. Thank you for being here, for lending your ears, and for walking this path with me as we continue to rewrite the narrative of struggle and success. The journey is far from over. This is only the beginning of a series of chapters dedicated to exploring resilience, accountability, and the undeniable power of hope. So, as we close this session, I naturally invite you to subscribe to the Tocopewell channel. Let this be your next step forward, because together, we can ensure that no matter how tough life gets, hope remains, and you always have the strength to cope well. Until the next chapter unfolds, stay resilient, keep your spirit high, and remember that every ending is just a prelude to a new beginning.